Property Investing Insights, your authority on all things property investing, finance and wealth creation with Right Property Group.
Hello and welcome to Property Investing Insights, Client Stories. And I've got a confession to make. Today I don't have a client. Instead, I've got someone far better. Not saying that there's anything wrong with our clients that have been on this guest, but I thought I'd bring a different perspective. So I've got a work colleague with me, young Stephen, who's gone through the journey. And I've followed his journey as he's added to his portfolio and the anecdotes that we've spoken along the way as to his mindset shift and how he's now become a pro in terms of property investing. But still learning the lessons along the way as you build up your portfolio. So join me in welcoming Stephen. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We had to travel quite a bit to get to this podcast, obviously. There are 10 steps from your desk.
Yeah, sure, far away.
Yes, and this one's been in the making for a little while because, you dropped the hint that, you could share a lot of stories, but then the jitters got in the way, and then also life got in the way as well. You recently got married, then went on a big honeymoon as well. And in amongst all of that, you've also navigated through a renovation as well. So I'm hoping to share all of that with the listeners. But let's start with a bit of background with you. Where are you from a career point of view? How long have you been with RPG? And how did you start on the investing journey?
Okay. Yep. So I guess I'll give a bit of a background of where I came from to set the stage. So I wasn't into property initially. Mm-hmm. I used to be an engineer.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a funny story how I ended up here. So I studied engineering at the University of Sydney for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then I thought when I was going to graduate, I thought that was going to be the best day of my life. But then the opposite actually happened. I ended up having a bit of a quarter-life crisis, thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to be doing this for the next 40 years. And as I started to peel back the layers, I realized that I didn't really 100% enjoy and was passionate about engineering. Mm-hmm. And when I was digging deep into it, I realized it was basically because I was just trying to impress the outer world because, engineering, it's, I thought of it as like a status thing.
Yes.
I wanted to impress my parents, impress my friends as well. Mm-hmm. But then, when all of that started to crumble away, when I started to realize, okay, this isn't what I really wanted to do, then, that led to a bit of a quarter-life crisis.
Uh-huh.
But I think that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. So after that little quarter-life crisis, I really didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So I was a bit stuck, and I sort of listened to, that was the first time I started to listen to my inner voice, intuition, because all my life I've just been following the path laid out for me. So This is the first time I'm actually trying to think for myself, and something within me just told me to go to a bookstore.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to the bookstore.
So you never read any books as an engineer?
I didn't really. I wasn't into that stuff. Where's the numbers at?
Yeah.
So I didn't really read books when I was in engineering. So I went to the bookstore, and luckily one book that caught my eye was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess for those listening, it's one of the most popular finance books of all time. So it was really good to pick that one up. And I can say it definitely just changed my life because that's the first that I got introduced to things like financial literacy, investing, and all of those concepts which weren't taught in school.
Yeah. So prior to that, there was no conversations at home and there was no conversations with friends about finance?
My parents always told me to invest, not stop spending it on my car because they put all my money into my car and modifications to make it cool and everything. So they were telling me to invest, but I think I needed to have a breaking point for me to actually look at it seriously. So that's where, I like that's why I said that quarter life crisis is
Yes.
probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So having read Rich Dad Poor Dad, what trajectory did that set you off on?
Yep. So interestingly enough, I read that book and it completely opened up my eyes towards, the possibilities, and I was very excited after that. And so that next 12 months, I was just consuming everything that I can, listening to podcasts, attending webinars, seminars, reading books, courses, everything.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, after that 12 months, one night I was just sitting by myself and I was thinking, hold on a second, I have consumed all of these things, but I haven't taken any action at all.
Yep. A familiar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just very confused. So I actually like to do journaling just to try to understand things and try to understand myself. And I asked myself, how come I did all of this action and I haven't moved forward?
Yeah.
I was so excited once I read this book, but shouldn't that translate into action? So I was asking myself all these questions, and the conclusion that I came to, I think it's a quote that changed my life. So it was from a Swiss psychologist named Carl Jung. So he said, if you do not make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life. Yeah. And then I was thinking, okay, so all this time I've just been procrastinating. And I think the root of it is my unconscious feeling of fear, fear of failure, self-doubt,
Fear of getting it wrong?
Resistance, just all of those things. And I realized once I actually acknowledged it and put it onto paper and, was truthful to myself about it, then that's when I could actually start to get the ball rolling. And I realized, okay, I can actually feel this fear, but then I can act in the face of fear. I don't have to let it control me. So that's when that realization definitely helped get the wheels turning on investing. Yeah. And luckily enough, around that time I had that realization was COVID. So as you know, the stock market crashed, and from all the books that I read, that means, there's a sale going on. That's when I started to make my first investment into, it was just the stock market, ASX 200. So it was a simple stock. And even then, I remember I put my first $500 into the ASX. The next day it went down by $3 and I thought, oh my God, investing sucks. This stuff doesn't work.
Yeah. So you expected something magical to happen the minute you put your money down, it compounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So then I was thinking, I started losing money, and obviously there was a crash, but that's just another thing that I had to overcome in the volatility of the market. Things go down, fear of losing money. I think that was actually the biggest fear.
Right. Okay.
Fear of losing money.
Yeah. So there's an acronym FEAR, right? Fear as in false expectations appearing real, right? And which is part of when many people are starting this investing journey, they go through that, right? They go through pretty much the same journey as you do, apart from the quarter life, crisis. Fortunately, you didn't buy a Harley, so you instead bought Rich Dad Poor Dad, which then set you on this trajectory. So you started investing in shares. And I'm a big advocate of, doing both property and shares. So what happened after that? Once you've dabbled your feet into shares and basically getting onto the investing bandwagon, how did the journey unfold from there?
Yeah. So initially, my investing plan was the stocks, cut my retirement down to 30 years if I follow this plan. So from 40 years to 30 years, I thought, pretty sweet.
Okay, so you've shaved off a decade.
Yeah. And then I thought, hold on a second, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's, because once you set and forget, then I was thinking, no, I still want to act and do something to see if I can shave it closer, smaller. So again, Robert Kiyosaki, I was reading his books, and there was a quote in there that, that's going to be a common theme. Quotes always change my life. There's always a quote that makes everything just click for me. So it was from Archimedes. So he's a ancient Greek physicist and mathematician, and he said, give me a lever long enough and somewhere to stand on, and I can move the world. And of course, he's talking about leverage.
Yes.
And when I realized that, the power of leverage towards a good investment, then that can really supercharge your journey towards getting to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to give property a shot. And obviously there was a lot of fear in there as well, because, you know, buying something like a house, that's probably the biggest financial commitment that somebody makes in their life. So I had to also, I guess since I understood, okay, fear's going to get in the way, I could write it down and acknowledge when I'm in that state of fear and make sure I try to manage it, basically, manage the fear so I can still.
So you created a true engineer, you created a system to handle the moving parts, right? So, okay.
To the best of my ability, Stephen feels fear, and then I have an output action that I need to do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So obviously you had to get the knowledge behind you in terms of property investing. So you had the knowledge. You already have the knowledge now in terms of shares investing, and now you're getting the knowledge behind you for property investing. What was your first course of action? How did you get that knowledge?
So firstly, I would just Google online, just see what resources are out there.
Yeah.
Initially, I did get started in looking at American property investing, since there was a lot more resources on that. Until my then girlfriend, but now wife, Jasmine, she said, hold on a second, why didn't you look at Australian property investing? So as soon as I did that, I started to see forums and communities. Property Chat was a big one that I looked through, because a lot of the people there are actually investors rather than, you know, Facebook forums or other forums. And I actually attended some seminars and webinars, but as you spoke about in your book, you know, they just want to get, a lot of them have different motives, not your best
Interest at heart.
So there's some that just trying to sell you off the plan, but then they position themselves as a buyer's agent. So there's a lot of that to cut through, and sometimes it is quite difficult to, you know, cut through the noise. But I think what helped me get through it was probably just a lot of the consuming. I consumed basically everything from different points of view to allow myself to make a decision, an educated decision, I guess.
So you gathered a lot of knowledge first, and then you filtered the knowledge to become a action plan for yourself. And from there, you've then moved on to searching for properties. So how did that move happen? So how did you manage to move from research mode to action mode?
Okay, that's a really good point. And I want to bring up another quote. It's from Jordan Peterson. He said, people are afraid to set their goals because in doing so, they specify the conditions for failure. And I realized there's a mountain I'm going to be basically climbing up this metaphorical mountain. There's a lot of fear that I'm feeling. And so if I just specify, okay, I need to buy this property by this date, then that would spur me into action. Because if there's no defined goal, then I can just keep procrastinating, which I know I will do. So that definitely really helped start getting me into action and get the wheels turning, and got me into brainstorming mode, because then there was a sense of urgency there as well now. So I started to brainstorm all the possibilities and things that I can do. And also spoke to, you know, people as well to get their advice. And what I ended up, this conclusion that I came to was, I was thinking, should I go and do it myself, or should I go with a buyer's agent? And now I didn't know about RPG at the time, so I went with a different buyer's agent. But the reason that I went with another buyer's agent, because I I was weighing up two options. I was thinking, if I do it myself, it's going to take me longer for me to be confident enough to pull the trigger. Rather, if I went with the buyer's agent, then I can pull the trigger quicker. And I know that the market at this point in time is moving 20K a month.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, it makes more sense just to go with the buyer's agent. So
Yep. And so where did you end up? Where did you end up buying? And what did you buy?
Yep. So I ended up buying a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and this was in Logan, in Queensland.
Yep.
And this was in 2021.
Yeah. So just as the market was absolutely taking off over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So got a bit lucky.
Yes. And so you've gone through the process. You didn't chase the new and shiny. You've gone with an established property. What helped with the mindset shift over there to, rather than go brand new, you've gone established?
I think one of the biggest things was the new houses that I was being sold in the seminars. They were mainly in Sydney, so they were quite a high price point.
Yep.
And with the established, it was buying in Brisbane, which is, as we now know, it had a stagnant cycle, so it was just starting to pick up. And so that's why I decided, okay, that established in a good area shows, for me, gives me the best value at this point in time. So that's why I decided to go with
Okay, so let's take a step back and talk about goals. So you started this journey, you mentioned that, okay, you've got this mountain to climb and you've set up milestones in that mountain. What were the milestones that you'd set up, and what's the end goal? Because you mentioned that with shares you've dropped the retirement back by 10 years, but property you can see that was going to get you there faster. So what was the initial goal that you started out with?
Yep, so the thing that got me into property, you might have mentioned it as well, the idea that you can buy 10 properties and sell off 5 to pay off the other 5. So that was the first concept that I heard of on how to retire with property. And that was the goal that I was trying to achieve. Right,
okay. And so after your first property house, so because you haven't owned property before, right? So Logan was your first property. What were the life lessons in that process? And then after you settled on it, what were the life lessons there as an investor in owning an investment property?
Yep, so it's definitely not as pretty as people think. It's not a buy this, numbers go up, Steve and happy.
Yeah.
It's a lot more.
Do I feel a quote coming now?
Maybe soon. This property was a baptism by fire. So the buyer's agent that I went with showed me, this was the 4th property he showed me, and I went with this one, and it was probably the worst of the bunch.
Okay, yeah.
So I did realize that, okay, there was a few others before, but then there was something that stopped me in the past from getting the good opportunity. And I did have to really reflect on that. I think I mentioned to you, I wrote myself a 3,000-word essay on why did I get this wrong? Because I don't want to repeat this. So there were just a lot of, I believe I did the best that I can at that current point in time with the knowledge that I had. But so the best thing that I could do was write about how I can improve. And I didn't really understand how to see the value in the properties that were given to me by looking at the comparable sales and looking at what's recently been sold. I didn't know how to do all of that. So when a property was presented to me, I reacted emotionally rather than logically, and to try to figure out, how to find value in something. So that was probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned.
Okay. And so you mentioned that it was a baptism by fire. So what happened post-settlement?
Post-settlement, these were really bad tenants. So they basically trashed the house. A year later, though, the tenants left. Got them to leave because they were not treating the house well. And I went there to renovate. So actually seeing it in the person was very different to the pictures sometimes. Not in the sense that there was a lot of damage, but in just the smell.
Yeah, yeah.
It smelled like a pub toilet when I walked in there. And there was, since I didn't take care of the house, there was a German cockroach infestation. A lot of flies everywhere, there's like food left behind, and then I'm just thinking, oh my God, this is quite terrible.
Yeah.
And when I was there as well, the pipe behind the kitchen burst. So then that destroyed the kitchen, there was mold. So that it was just, everything was just chaos.
Yep, yep.
So that really made me think, oh my God, like this isn't what I thought property investing would be.
Yeah. And so you elected to do the work yourself.
Yep.
Because you've worked on cars yourself, and there's a little tutor called YouTube that helps with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to renovate, and what did you do to this property?
Yep. So yeah, my wife and I drove down there, and we intended to spend 4 weeks to do flooring and carpet, flooring and
So
paint.
this is during the lockdown, is this, or is this after?
This was after the lockdown.
After the lockdowns,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And we wildly underestimated it. So we gave ourselves 4 weeks, and it took 6.
Right.
Well, by the 6th week, we were sick of it, and we left unfinished and just paid a tradie.
Yes. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's a lesson learned there, and renovations of always set a buffer and overestimate rather than under.
Yeah, okay. So obviously you've now added value to the property. Market's been in your favor as well. And obviously the rent would be better, or the quality of the tenant will be better, because the property is looking much more schmick. So how did that all play out, and what was the next move?
Yep, so after that, we did get it rented out. But previous to that, so the next move actually happened a few months after I bought this property, before the renovation. So
Yep.
since we picked it up a bit cheaper because it needed a bit of work, I was able to refinance it, and in 3 months to purchase a second property,
Yep.
which was in Perth. And that happened, so that Perth purchase was 6 months after this Brisbane one, before I renovated it.
Yes.
And that one was a bit of an adventure as well, because after the Perth property, after the Queensland property, I didn't have too much funds left. So, and I wanted to buy, and I only had equity, so I decided to do it without a buyer's agent this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Adventurous.
Yeah.
And in a different state altogether.
Different state. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was quite scary, let's say, because I feel like there was a lot of unknowns, because if I was thinking, I'm going at it without a buyer's agent. I was already nervous enough with a buyer's agent, let alone without one holding your hand throughout the whole thing. So that's sort of the reason why I wanted to write myself that essay before, a 3,000 word essay, to try to improve my decision making. Because I was thinking also, every time I've got a goal, it's always in the unknown.
Yeah.
And there's always a big gap of unknown between where I want to go and where I want to be.
Yep.
And I think my ability to navigate that chaos is going to really help me towards future endeavors and everything. So I decided to go without the BA. There were a lot of times where I would actually get lost and didn't know what to do. But then, since I wrote down my goal, I wrote a goal down. I needed to buy this property by this time, because the market's moving really quickly.
Yep.
So I had a fire underneath me. I needed to act, and it left no room for me to stand still.
Yep.
And I felt like going through the unknown sometimes feels like you're going through a blizzard. So, in the blizzard, every now and again, you might see a path here, you might see a path there, and you don't know which way is the right way. But then all you know is that if you stand still, then you're going to get frozen to death.
Yeah.
So you have to keep moving.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
I didn't want to quote it. The quote was too long, so I just paraphrased it.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously you had to learn the contract process in a different state, right? Because you bought in Queensland, contracts look different, the process is different. How did you navigate that?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So when I would get lost, there's this idea that I read from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he talks about this idea called infinite intelligence.
Yep.
How that you can tap into like a deeper wisdom or answers within yourself whenever you're stuck. And initially when I read that, since I'm an engineer, I'm always thinking logic and reason. I'm thinking, what's this woo-woo stuff?
Yeah.
But then when I was stuck and I needed to act, then I just had to give it a shot. So what I did was, whenever I got stuck, I'd write some questions down on what do I do and how can I move forward. And I'd actually try going into a dark room and then I'll just meditate for 20, 30 minutes and then allow the answers to come to me. And what also inspired me to do this is some of the greatest minds, they talk about this, like intuition. And here comes the quote.
Yep.
Einstein, he said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And I was thinking, okay, let me try this. If Einstein says this, I'm going to try to tap into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, after these sessions, I'd have a lot of unknowns, like how do I do WA contracts or how do I move forward with this or that? And then I would leave the little meditative brainstorming with some answers. So we'll say, hey, contact this person to find out about contracts. So I set up a meeting with somebody I met from Property Chat to run me through how the WA contract works.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of other problems that I didn't know how to solve. I'd have a first action step that comes out of this brainstorming session, and I just started following the crumbs and see where they lead me.
Yeah.
It led me to where I wanted to go.
There you go. So you allowed the noise to die down so that you've got a clear path and you can have your thoughts away from the noise, and it gets rid of the fear, it gets rid of the clutter so that you can be then laser focused on the process, which is true engineering, as they say. So you then managed to get this property. And how long did it take you in terms of the negotiation process after you found the opportunity?
Yeah. So before I get to that, it's funny that you mentioned the noise and everything, because that was actually another big part of why I did the meditations, because everywhere around me, I turned on the news. That's when interest rates were going up. So everyone was saying now's a bad time to invest. I'd speak to people and they're like, Perth.
Why would you buy there? Why would you buy there?
It's been flat and it's a mining town.
Yeah.
And it's a rising interest rates. Why are you going to buy there?
Yeah.
So yeah, that meditation and just cutting out all of the noise definitely just helped me connect to the truth of what to do.
Yeah.
So but on your point with negotiations, it took me. Okay, back then, to be honest, I had absolutely no idea how to negotiate. So I just put my best and final, which was 40 grand above the price guide.
Right, ouch.
Just straight. But at that time, I did do a lot of study on I was tracking how the listing price for properties versus how much they actually sold for.
Yeah.
And everything was 40 to 50K above the asking price.
Which is important to track, right? And that gives you a good tempo of the market, but it also gives you good fair value, whether the listed price is inflated or not inflated. It gives you a really good indication for that. Yeah. So how long did it take you from start to finish in terms of putting the offer in and then finalizing it? Was it a one shot or?
Yeah, it was one shot. This
Yep.
was 40K over.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, obviously, it did value up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing. So it actually didn't value up. So I offered 422. The value was 390. So then I had to go back to the banks and basically put up a case to say, hey, it's actually worth this much.
Yep. So you did your own research and went armed with the research back to the lender.
Yep. So this is actually a funny story. So you know how I said that I put my goals down. I wrote down a goal for this property.
Yeah.
So for this one, I actually wrote down the price that I made a vision board for this one. I wrote down Perth, $400,000, 4-bed, 2-bath, minimum 600 square meters, settlement at this date. And after I made this vision board, I had it hanging up, and then I ended up forgetting about it. And funnily enough, once I offered 422, forgetting about my vision board, value from the banks came back at 390, and I told them, you need to bump it up. And they came back to me at 400.
Okay.
And then I thought, oh, well, that's not enough. So then I was a bit sad. I told the agent, look, the value's coming back at 400. Don't know if I got like extra cash to just complete the sale. And then magically, he called me back a few hours later. He said, you know what? The vendor was like, yeah, you can have it for 400.
Okay. So it panned out exactly how you had planned it.
Yeah, somehow like it matched the vision board. So
Yes.
that's when I picked up my vision board like a week later. I thought, wow, like it actually ended up happening somehow.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I know the audience is hanging on to find out whether the settlement date did match up as well.
it initially lined up, but then the vendor solicitor was very slow, and it ended up happening 2 days later.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's still pretty
Yeah,
close because
very close.
I wrote that vision board probably 3 to 4 months before actually starting the search in Perth.
Yeah.
So-
So you've just settled on Logan, and 6 months later, or 3 months later, you've gone into Perth.
3 months was the minimum time for the refinance,
Yep.
and then 6 months was when I ended up settling on.
Okay. So you've settled now. So within a 6-month time frame, you've now got 2 assets and 2 big mortgages to pay for. How was the mindset at that point in time? Once the mortgages started coming out of your account, the mortgage repayments started coming out of your account.
To be honest, I was basically an ostrich, and I just dug my head in the sand.
Yep.
I missed out on paying on council rates because it was just that extra layer of responsibility that I don't think psychologically I was prepared for. I just thought, okay, buy this, numbers go up, Stephen happy, rather than thinking about, okay, council rates, and fix this, fix that. So I did miss out on a few council rates, and it took me a while to actually realize that, hold on a second, all of these added responsibilities, they require, to be a good property investor requires a different level of character that I wasn't currently was. So I realized, okay, if I want to grow, I need to become a different character who's able to stay on top of things, able to, be good with the numbers.
Yeah.
And luckily, I married right, so my wife Jasmine, she's the one that's really good with numbers.
Yes.
She comes up with the most crazy spreadsheets and tracking. So I'm so glad that where my weaknesses are, she can. That's her strength.
Yeah.
So that's definitely helped.
So right from the beginning, you've been doing this as a team, right? And you're complementing each other with the strengths and weaknesses. So after Perth, what was the thought process, and when was the next move?
Yep. So we sat on it for a while because we just made 2 purchases, but these were under my name.
Yep.
So this is before we were married. So we were trying to max out as much as we can in each other's names. So, and she already had her own PPOR in Parramatta and Northmead.
Yep.
And the next move was, okay, let's try get Jasmine to get her IP. So my wife Jasmine.
Yes.
So we didn't have much to play with. We only had our budget was around the 500, and at this time it was late 2024. So everybody was talking about Far North Queensland.
Yes.
And I came across a crossroads, and I thought to myself, okay, I can buy where everyone else is buying and have instant equity, or I can try to venture off and try to find a colder market which hasn't grown much.
Yeah.
And where I ended up landing was regional Victoria.
Okay. Yep.
And I ended up buying in Bendigo.
Which year was this?
Late 2024.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. And that was actually pretty lucky because when I've spoken to agents on the ground now, and they said that so we purchased in December 2024, and they said the market picked up in January 2025.
Yeah.
So.
And there's value in not following the herd, right? Because now you've got a system in place. You're now looking for obviously growth, but also not immediate growth. You're looking at now stable properties that could stand the test of time. So you've honed down your selection criteria. You're not afraid to look at the broader markets because you've started in Queensland. You've already had an exposure as a couple in New South Wales. So you started in Queensland. You've gone to Perth, and you could end up back in Queensland where the flavour was at the time, but you decided to look elsewhere. And how were friends and family around you at this time? Because now you've moved rapidly in terms of asset ownership. You're still forging ahead, and naturally 2024 Victoria was definitely not in flavour. So how did everyone react around you?
For the Victoria purchase?
For the Victorian purchase, and also the rapidity in which you've bought properties as well.
Yeah, so with the Queensland one, my parents were actually very supportive. So they have invested in property in the past.
Yep.
I just haven't listened because all I cared about was my car.
Yep.
It's a Nissan 180SX with those car heads. Really cool car. Probably it's the coolest car ever. Yeah. But they were very supportive with that one. And they did help get me over the line because I was slightly short on cash, so they did help and support with that one.
Yep.
They had a bit of a question mark with the Perth just because it was very rapid and
Yes.
there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. But I guess I decided to push ahead anyway. And then two or 3 years later was this Victoria purchase. I know my parents were on board because at this stage they knew, or they had faith that I knew what I was doing.
Yep.
And that's when, they're very supportive now, and not that they were before, but they're even more supportive now. They know that this stuff works. And
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about this property in regional Victoria. What was the purchase price, and what was the plan with that?
Yep. So the plan with this one was to add a secondary dwelling or a granny flat. So we wanted something that had the space in the back, or ideally a corner block. So, and the mindset behind this was, how I said before, the plan was buy 10, sell 5, pay off the other 5. I then realized properties are going too crazy now with the prices. Maybe I can add to my portfolio via secondary dwellings instead, which doesn't include stamp duty, it's cheaper. And so that's why I really wanted to get a granny flat site. And what I ended up with was a corner block. It was on a 590 square block. And there's a lot of room on the site and back of the property to build on, and I picked it up for $475 at the time, and it was actually pretty good yields as well. It was 5% yield at that time since it was a cold market, so I got lucky with that.
Yeah. So it's important to understand over here, right, that we started with a plan of buying 10 properties, sell half when they go up in value, pay off the other half. But as the journey is unfolding, you're already changing and fine-tuning that plan in line with how the market's moving, how your knowledge base is increasing, and also understanding that every time you buy a property, you're paying stamp duty. If you're using buyer's agents, you're paying them their fee, and then there's all of these ancillary costs, whereas you could collect another rental income stream by building a secondary dwelling. Yeah, so that was a good purchase, obviously. And so how did the journey pan out from there?
Yeah, so after that one, was my Jalong purchase. So this was just a few months ago. Why am I forgetting? So this was 6 months ago when I signed the contract for a property in Jalong. Same idea there as well, where I wanted something where I can build.
Yep.
But it was a bit of a different property to what I was used to, because this one probably wasn't the prettiest. This was definitely a very ugly duckling. You know, owner occupier who lived in there for 30 years and wasn't really well kept. So it needed a lot of work. A lot of issues wrong with it as well. And for some reason I had the bright idea and I thought that it would be quite an adventure to drive there and renovate it ourselves.
Yep, being newly married as well.
Yep, so
Yeah.
I was, before we had honeymoon plans, I was selling this to my wife, Jasmine, as a honeymoon. This is going to be the
Honeymoon in Jalong.
honeymoon in Jalong, in not even a nice area of Jalong. It was Norlane, so it wasn't the nicest or the prettiest,
Yep.
but the fundamentals stacked up. So yeah, we went there to renovate for a month, and it was quite a, that was, again, I made the mistake of underestimating it. So I thought it was going to take like 3 weeks, but then it took a month.
Yep.
And since I underestimated it, we were just working 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to get it done.
Right.
It was not fun.
Did the same thing repeat as in Logan? Did you end up saying, okay, enough, I'll get someone else in the end?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Common theme over here.
I know. I don't think I learned.
Yeah, that's it. So in the meantime, if we go back a few months, you had started your role here at RPG, and I remember us having the interview on the balcony, where I said, if you get your answers wrong, I'll throw you off the balcony, so just to unsettle you. So you'd learned a lot in terms of the different strategies as part of your role. And so you went a full circle back, and now we're talking about secondary dwellings. Yeah. So how's that process unfolding?
Yep. So right now I have actually gone into starting my own, my very first granny flat. So this is in Perth.
Yep.
So I just signed the papers yesterday with a builder last week. And which is quite scary because, with everything going on, all of the uncertainty, but I think I've learned that I can still do stuff even if I'm feeling all this fear, and then there's all this noise, and the collective sentiment around us seems to be all negative.
Yeah.
And I can actually feel it, like, when I talk to people or when I watch the news, I can feel how it changes my state of being to a state of fear and scarcity and helplessness.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm thankful that sometimes the journal reveals to myself how I'm feeling, and I can still push past and act. And so yeah, there's let's see how that journey goes with the second with that granny flat.
So you've gone from shares to trying to get as much information about property to pulling the trigger, and then going rapidly. And now you have, as a family, as a household, you've got 4 properties, investment properties under your belt, and you're about to add another rental income stream. Is the plan then to continue building the portfolio? Or are you going to come back and work within the portfolio to build a few more granny flats?
Yeah, so we were thinking about that, but we're thinking where we are. You always talk about this, investing has, investing in the forefront. No.
Lifestyle in the forefront, investing in the background.
Yes, lifestyle in the forefront, investing in the background. And I'm thinking, how's my lifestyle going to look in the next 12 months, 5 years? And since I was recently married, we're thinking about starting a family potentially next year. So that's definitely going to change the way that we invest.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what led to the decision to build now rather than try to acquire another one, because the cash flow with the Perth build is going to be a really good yield. It's going to be positive cash flow, and it's definitely going to help once my wife is going to be on maternity leave.
Yep.
So we're thinking about just building for now.
Okay, fantastic. And so with all of your life lessons that you've had with the setbacks, if I can even call them that, because they really aren't really setbacks, it's just lessons along the way. Have you seen in your role over here, because your role is to find properties and then add to our client's portfolio, what mistakes are you seeing that you've already made in your portfolio, and what mindset mistakes are you seeing or mindset gaps are you seeing with the clients as you're dealing with them?
Yeah. I think one of the big ones, I guess obviously, is fear. And where that can hold people back is, especially in a hot market right now, speed is king. And making quick decisions can be the make or break of a deal. And I know how it's unfortunate that that's the case. Ideally it would be really good to be able to sit down and spend a week to think about it, or spend the weekend to think about it. But sometimes the nature of the deal requires urgency. There's tons of other investors or buyers agents looking at the same property that we present people. So the agent is going to want to sell it to the person who's going to be the easiest to deal with. And I'm not saying that we are going to jump the gun on our due diligence and take out finance clauses or building and pest clauses, because that's not what we're about. We want to still keep the client safe. But I think it's just the acting quickly, even if it feels uncomfortable, can sometimes be the best course of action. Especially where we do this every day, we see deals all the time, and we know how the market dynamics work. We've got boots on the ground, so.
And you've done it yourself in the sense that you looked at what was holding you back, right, and then you addressed it. And with the speed at which the current market is moving, obviously the information always comes in layers. The idea is to control the opportunity and finalize the due diligence while you're controlling the opportunity, rather than losing it to someone else. And I really resonated with what you said in terms of how you did your research when you're building up your portfolio, is that you looked at all the sold prices first to get a gauge of, okay, what was it listed for and what did it eventually sell for, which is fairly important, because it then gives you a really good idea of where that market tempo is, where the offer should be, so that you're not then really basing it on the listed price. You're really basing it on the listed results that you can see at the bottom of the page. And that's probably in today's market one of the most important research tools out there. So if we were to talk again in 5 years' time, where is Stephen then?
Where's Stephen then?
Is he happy, Stephen?
If numbers go up, happy Stephen?
Yes.
I think I'd still be on the same journey of learning and growing. I think that it's just going to be a never-ending learning experience and adventure. So no matter how many properties or builds that's going on, I think that I'll still be on the journey of trying to see how well I can develop my character in a sense, because I think I think character first. I think that's what leads to where I want to go. I don't think it's the number of properties. I think it's the version of myself that I become to be able to withstand that that reality that I want. Just how I said before of when I first had 2 properties and I wasn't paying the council rates and things like that. I don't think I was ready to become the version of me that was capable of having the 2 properties. So I think in a similar way, the version of me that's financially free and doing all the cool things that I want to do, I think it all boils down to my level of self-development. So I think that's probably Stephen in 5 years is still going to be journaling, still going to be trying to see where I'm doing things wrong or where I can improve. And
no, absolutely. And so if you look at your generation, your age, what's a advice that you could give to your friends, family, people your age in your situation, where if I take away the portfolio, the life lessons you've had and what mistakes they're making right now, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing would just be to set a goal. I think that's first and foremost the most important thing, because think the interesting thing about, when you have a goal, when you have a North Star, then when adversity comes your way, then you're able to reframe that adversity towards something good, because quote time, there's a quote, with every adversity, there's a seed of equal opportunity.
Yes.
And I realized in my life, if I don't have a goal to reframe my current adversity, then I'm not going to be able to, see the opportunity or grow from this adversity. So, with, for example, Brisbane, when, the pipe burst and everything's gone to chaos, at that time, I just, cursed the world, cursed property investing, this sucks. But later down the track, I realized that's not the right mindset. If I've got a goal of, Stephen, I want to be here and become this version of myself, then I can reframe and I can basically turn, the adversity into something good. So I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And look, we can continue talking about this forever, because I can see you're really passionate about it, as I am. You've made it really plain and simple that investing is all about mindset. And with mindset comes the result, right? So you've gone through the trials and tribulations of owning property, finding the life lessons there, refining the process and building up a portfolio. In fact, I dare say that you've achieved more in 3 years than most people would in 10 years, because you made this a goal-orientated mindset shift process, as opposed to just simply buying property, right? And you are quite open to morphing your goals and changing your goals and strategies as the market changes. So as a final parting word to all the investors out there, what's one piece of advice that you can give them?
Can it be a quote?
Of course it can. Why not?
Your level of success will never exceed your level of personal development.
I love that. And with that level of success that we've shared, make sure that this becomes your level of goal setting. Until next time, this is Property Investing Insights, and I'll see you again.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.